Hello, everybody. We are here. Andor's over. So sad.
So sad.
I miss having more episodes to watch. I really do, because I've been loving this show.
Were you staying up late to watch it, or were you watching it the next day?
I did twice. Well, I did once with you, right? Did I do that once with you?
Yeah, you did. The first one.
That's right, yeah. So I did it once with you, and then after that, I think I did it 2 other times, and then I was just way too tired. I'm like, I'm just going to watch it in the morning. It's fine.
Yeah, my sleeping schedule is very happy that Andor is done, as is my therapist. So...
Yeah, I feel that. And by the way, dude, it's good to have you back on the show, man. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I loved hanging out with you last time. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Ryan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I too am also mourning the loss of Andor. It's hard to not have that as a show anymore, because I will say that I was doing the late night watching, and but like with the therapist, it's good for my blood pressure that maybe the show's over. It was wearing me out. That last episode wore me out. So yeah.
Yes.
But Jeff, how about you? How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I feel like we haven't been here forever. I know it's only been like 2 weeks, but still feels like it's been like a millennia since we've been here. So in honor of that, I decided to put on the cause that I'm actively working on. Is my audio my video getting really choppy? Because it looks like it's getting choppy to me.
In the app, it is. Let me see sometimes with these things, it's different on YouTube.
It looks like, if I'm catching this in the pre-show, it looks like I'm just really slow for some reason. I have nothing else running.
No, we look fine on YouTube.
We do? Good. Okay, I'm gonna kill Chrome because maybe that's doing it. Sometimes that does it too. All right, cool. Whatever. I don't care. I'm good. Yeah, I've been working on this kit. I bought a sewing machine, and I've been like teaching myself how to sew and how to build stuff. And I'm like, you know what? In honor of the end of Andor, I will dress up in what is going to be my new High Republic cosplay, because I'm not quite done with Convergence yet. Getting close, but I actually had to put a pause. I just started it. Oh, you did? It's really good.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's good so far. I finished Path of Deceit earlier this week.
Oh, dude. That one right there. There it is. Path of Deceit. That thing. Oh my god, that hurt so bad.
Yeah.
That was brutal. It really, for a young adult, for what, a middle-aged book or a young adult book?
Yeah, for I think it's 13 to 16.
Yeah, it was really rough. Like in the best possible way.
Yeah.
I will say, so I bought this and I started reading. I got like, I don't know, a couple hundred pages in or 100 pages in. And then I bought the audiobook because I'm like, oh, you know what? I got chores to do. Then I can just listen to it. But I realized what was happening is I was squeezing it in everywhere. And then I wasn't sitting like up at night reading before bed because I'm like, you know what? I need to stop reading the audiobook. I need to sit down and just pick this book back up. But I will say, bit of spoiler to anybody who's watching right now, but I will say that on it's like page 147 of the book, but in the audio, there's a scene when one of the main characters, or at that part of the book, one of the main characters, what's his name? Fartu's son or something like that. He's the prince of Iram, one of the 2 planets of war. I won't give the details of what's happening in the scene, but in the scene, he's just thinking to himself something. But in the audiobook, the music they pick for like this 3 paragraphs of things that he says out loud, oh my god, it is the audio for the audiobook in the High Republic in general, but in this one specifically, is some of the most beautifully crafted and produced sound I've ever heard. I don't just mean the way someone's talking. I mean the music they're playing in the background while characters are talking just evokes so many cool emotions, so much more so than traditional Star Wars. Like, I love all the other books that they've done in Star Wars in general. I mean, they're all back here, but this, oh my god, it is just beautiful, and it's all new, and just, I don't know, I absolutely love it. So I don't know, anybody watching, if you haven't started reading High Republic, read Convergence. It's fantastic.
It's really good so far for me. I'm not as far into the story as you are.
Yeah, so I don't want to say anything else.
You listened to Tempest Runner, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I have the audiobook. I have the print books for all of the other books, but I also I've done the audio for all the rest of them too. Tempest Runner was fantastic.
Oh, I love Tempest Runner. So that's one of my favorites.
It was I think that one was actually a full audio drama, whereas all the others like this one are read by a single narrator for the most part. Tempest Runner I think was like a full cast. It was like 8 or 9 people, something like that, doing the book. So you get like all these different voices to make all of the different characters, so they really sound very distinct from each other. I love that. I love when they do that.
Me too.
Well, enough of the High Republic stuff tonight. I see Rich is here tonight. Rich, dude, I feel like it's been way too long since you've been here, buddy. Rich is there. Don't worry, there'll be some Star Trek something you can watch instead. That's true.
Yeah, I that's what I mean. We were talking about this in the pre-show, Rich, is that I think I've over-rotated tonight into a little too much Star Trek. And I'm not going to lie, I'm excited for the death knell that is Picard Season 3. We'll see where that goes.
Just coughing back there, having a fit in the corner.
Yeah,
when is that coming? When is that happening?
That's happening, and they just actually dropped a couple of new images of Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher. Is it coming in a few more months or something like that now? Because we're right up, almost up to it. Because there's this little break that they do between shows, and Lower Decks ended, and so now we have the pause, and then we'll be into Picard Season 3. And I can't wait for Strange New Worlds to come back. See, Rich, you started this. Like, I can't wait for Strange New Worlds to come back. It's one of my favorite shows. But Picard Season 3, let's get that swan song going. Let's see how it rolls. I
feel like that show is like the Voldemort soul at the end of the last Harry Potter movie that's under the bench. It's like sitting there like, what can you do for that? There's nothing you can do for that. There's just nothing you can do for that. Yeah. I pulled out that reference. That's the reference I went for.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to say, somebody didn't tell me that today was a geek nerd holiday because there were all the trailers dropping for different stuff.
Dude, I missed it too.
All the news.
It was apparently Ray Skywalker Day or something, or.
Well, she just posted on Instagram that she was just visiting. I guess she was there to just pick up her royalty check. I don't know, but I don't know. You don't just go to a Lucasfilm office just to say hi and have lunch.
No,
right? Yeah, you're either going there to pick up some money or to like kill a darling. It's something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that.
I think actually, sorry, Brad. I think Filoni really just shows up at Lucasfilm just to figure out how they can work in Order 66 into yet one more property. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead. I had to do it.
No, I think that they're really trying to figure out how they're going to. I feel like there's this reckoning that's happening over at Lucasfilm right now, where they're trying to figure out how to really breathe life into parts of properties that they have. I think that Andor is a surprise for them. I don't think that they had anticipated the way that this was going to come out, and I think that they might be bringing in Daisy Ridley just to talk about what the future looks like. So yeah. And I can see that someone is championing that we're back onto Star Wars. I will leave Star Trek behind. I'm not going to talk about any other Star Trek tonight.
That is not true. Don't say things you can't stick
true.
to. Don't say things you can't stick to, dude.
I will talk right now about how, you know what, I think that the Picard show, I feel like they're not looking good. Outside of LeVar Burton, I don't think anybody's. I think everybody needs to maybe just.
I think the term you were looking for there was old. They're all looking very old.
I
mean, I love them to death, but.
I'm telling you, I had a great pitch for that show. They should have picked it up.
They should have. You've thrown your pitches out here many times, and no one's called.
Yeah, man.
Phones are on standby. Operators are waiting. Dave,
I got a great pitch.
John,
I got a
whoever
great pitch
you can just call.
I got a great pitch for how you add episode 10 in, so that way it picks up, it just rectifies some things. But we all have our dreams.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, should we jump in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Maybe. Where's
Maybe.
my buttons?
Sort of.
Where's my buttons? Oh, I didn't do it. Oh, it's not. Why aren't you? I software is just being a pain
Hey!
tonight. Anyway,
Hey.
we are here. I have to do all the clicky clickies. My automation isn't working. See, Ryan, I have to tell some people automation doesn't always work.
No,
It doesn't.
no.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for being here tonight, and thank you, Chris, for being back on the show. It's awesome to have you, dude.
It's been too long. It's been too long.
It really has, and we've got just so much heartbreak and awesome storytelling to go through in tonight. But before we do that, thank you everyone for being here with us live. Really appreciate it. Anybody who's watching Team Replay, we appreciate you too. Rich is here live in the chat. Aggressively relaxing is here. That is an awesome phrase, by the way. Aggressively relaxing. Like I have to figure out how to do that. Like just relaxing so hard.
It's kind of it oxymoronic, you know.
It is. I am crushing this relaxation.
Yeah.
I feel like that's too much. Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate it. If you're liking the show, just do the like and subscribe stuff. I'm not going to be over about that. But tonight we are going to spend the whole time, well, most of the time anyway, talking about Andor. I mean, not totally, because we always end up talking about other fandoms too, because that's what we do. But we're going to talk all about Andor because the show's over. At least this season of it is over, and it did so much to all of us, not just to Star Wars storytelling, but to the characters and to how we feel about Star Wars. So I don't know, Ryan. I think I'm gonna do this. I'll be the one to do this tonight, and I'll start off with our guest because I've got to put someone on the spot. If you were to say, let's start off this way. One hot take for Andor, and I'm gonna put you on the spot for it, Chris.
I think as time passes, I think Andor is going to be considered to be one of the best streaming shows. That's not going to just be compared to any Star Wars property. It's going to be compared to like Breaking Bad, West Wing, Sopranos, any of those types of shows. I think Andor was a complete departure and was a level up for storytelling for not just Star Wars, but everything that's been on Disney Plus so far.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting how much other content we've received from Star Wars, Mandalorian, all the animated shows, which we all love, like we absolutely adore them. Then there's Boba Fett that happened, so we've had all this really great content from TV shows, movies, whatever it happens to be. I'm with you though that Andor has been. It feels like it's had more outside of new book type storytelling. It's had more of a profound impact, at least for me, on what I think of as Star Wars and what I think I've been hoping for as Star Wars for years, but I didn't know it.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's because I think Star Wars really made an impact on people. The original 1977 Star Wars made an impact on people because George Lucas wasn't trying to create a franchise. He was just trying to tell a story. And I think that that Andor, to the point that Chris you're making about how people will look at this and it'll just be seen as like a really great achievement in streaming. I think it's because someone had a whole story they wanted to tell. And then executed it perfectly, unlike any other long form series I've seen. I have not seen, and I think a big part of that is because of how they chunked it up into every 3 episodes is a 3-act play. And I think that when they realized that that's how they could structure the story and that they had an overarching vision for it, it's just, I mean, it's not just the originality that it brought. It's not just the acting and the set design and production values, all aside. I think it's because it is one of the greatest examples of someone taking a story and executing perfectly. I like I said, I think this is now one of, if not my favorite Star Wars property. And definitely just a thing that I would bring up in the same way that I would bring up 1984 or Slaughterhouse-5, and I'd say you should encounter this because it will affect you.
I
this is like highbrow science fiction. This is like solid stuff.
It really is.
Yeah, I remember when Jeff and I were watching the first episode together. I think we were both saying, "Wow, this feels like Blade Runner. This doesn't feel like
Oh
Star
yeah.
Wars." And I think that Andor leans harder into science fiction than any Star Wars has done before. Which I had mixed feelings about it in the midway part of the show because the weekly release schedule was killing me. I've been going back through Andor and watching it while I'm working, and it flows so much better now that I can marathon it. But man, the acting was perfection. The script was so tight. The art direction, the director and cinematography in general was perfect.
Yeah. And if I could just, I know I just talked a lot just a moment ago, but a thing that I also really enjoyed in this is that there was no mystery box. There was no there was no MacGuffin. Andor's the MacGuffin, if you want to say that there's a MacGuffin. There's no MacGuffin. There's no, like, we got to go get this thing and then get to the princess in your other castle. There was no mystery box. Who is Sauron? Which one of you is Sauron? Maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's that guy. Like, and
Yeah.
that's not to like throw shade on anything else. I've enjoyed all these serialized shows this summer and into the fall, but this was just a solid storytelling. There wasn't a gimmick to it. And I think that's one of the things I also liked is that I wasn't like, oh, what's the mystery? Like I know that there were a lot of people that were like, what are they building? What are they building in the prison? Maybe that's this, maybe that's that. And I was like, it's, they probably are going to show that, and they did. But
Hmm.
that's not the point. The fact was what they were doing. The fact was
Hmm.
what it was. And like I've said in previous episodes, I know, Jeff, you've heard me say this a lot. I think that all art is political, and I love when something takes a stand. Yeah, I don't even need to agree with it. I just like it when it takes a stand, and it's like, this is a thing I'm trying to say. And this show has a lot of things it's trying to say, and as it happens, it agrees with my politics. So I kind of enjoyed it even
Hmm.
more.
I liked your note there about it mattered less what they were building in the prison. And by the way, everyone watching right now, if you hadn't guessed it already, if let me see if I can pull it up here. Uh, there will be spoilers this entire time. If you have not watched Andor, all of it, just spoilers. I'm just putting that out there. There will be 100% spoilers the entire time. Sorry if I didn't say that already, but we'll put it out there. You're like what you said. The what they were building was less important than what was actually being done to them to make them build these things. And it was interesting because I remember you and I brought this up in one of our episodes, right? We were not obviously the only show to bring up the idea that, ooh, I wonder if what they're doing is building this thing on one floor, sending it to the next floor, and that floor is taking it apart, and then it's just a constant cycle. And what I found really interesting is two things. One, that there was an article, and I don't remember which publication it came out in, but there was an interview with the writers, or at least one of the head writers, and they said when the question was asked of them, is this building something that we're going to see? And whoever it was, said yes, but that's not really the point. The person was trying to say, like, that's not really what they're building, isn't the important part. It's what's happening. But then the person said, well, one of the theories is they're building it here and it's moving to another floor. And they're like, well, we're pretty cruel, but we're not that cruel. That's pretty heartless. We're not going to do that. And I'm like, that's fascinating that they were even aware that that could have been a thing they went through. But I still found it interesting because even though the thing that they were building didn't this widget didn't go to the next floor to get taken apart, that action did actually happen in the prison. It just wasn't to the machined part, it was to the people. And that was the heartbreak of that whole thing when everything was breaking down because it was discovered that somebody was shifted to another floor and was recognized, and people had a riot because holy crap, we're never leaving this place. That
Yeah.
was, oh my god, that was THX 1138 sort of long bright hallway sort of feel to it, which I'm sure was completely intentional, but
Hmm.
it I don't know, it blew my mind. Brian, before we get too far down this, so Chris gave had a chance to do it. Ryan, what's your one hot take from this show?
I'm sorry. I think I already said it too. My hot take is this is this could be my favorite Star Wars. And I'm a dyed in the wool Empire person. Like I love Empire. Like I think that that's a great example of like a perfect movie. Like it's solid. The score, everything. But I guess it's, and maybe it's just that we don't get to see pieces of art that are like this anymore. And that's why it just kind of affected me so much is that everything just seems to be so much more manufactured or so much like less about risk taking and more about like we're not going to make a great movie, we're going to make the biggest movie, you
Mhm.
know. And this seemed like something so different, like even, and I know this is a spoiler so I'll just say it, but even how like the music of the opening for every episode changed and how then it's capitalized on that's the funeral dirge that they're walking to. And it's like, wow. Like, I mean, this is just um really great art is about making choices. And this is someone who made, these people made choices and then they just followed it through. There are some missteps here or there, but that's my hot take, Jeff, is that, and I think that's why I like this so much. It's because I just kind of like this as like a piece of art, like not just Star Wars or science fiction or anything. Like I just really like this. I tell people now, oh, you have to see Andor. Oh, I don't like Star Wars, or I don't know of Star Wars. You don't need to know of Star Wars. You should just sit down and watch this. This is like books that I would recommend people. This is like a part of our cultural literacy to me.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If nobody, there's a few people we work with that have made the comment to me before that like, oh, I haven't really ever got into Star Wars, or there's a couple of people who have actually said, no, I just don't like it. I don't like that. It's like I'm with you that you know what? If I didn't even tell you this was Star Wars, just go watch this TV show called Andor. That's all you. It's a it. Yes, there's some parts of it that take place in space, but that's not really much of a thing in the show. Really has nothing to do with the show. You would find it. I would think most people would find it like very very impactful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there are people I know that don't like Star Wars that love Andor, and that's why I think that the show is gonna stand out as something very different. In the grand scheme of things, it's just going to be a big standout show, and I'm hoping Lucasfilm will go, okay, we can take risks with stuff like this now. And I don't necessarily. I'm not saying I want all my Star Wars stories to be like this. I am a shallow person. I work really hard all day. Sometimes I just want to get out of my job and watch some space wizards with their laser swords do crazy stuff. And that's my favorite Star Wars. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm really hoping that Lucasfilm will take this opportunity to try out some more different kinds of stuff. And it's not always gonna work, and maybe season two Andor is not going to be as good as season one. You never know, but I hope this makes them braver.
It almost
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that. I was almost thinking this was almost an inverse, not to a degree, but sort of like an inverse Firefly, where in this case though the movie came out first and then the series, but it's almost I just hope I hope making a second season like you said, Chris. I hope making a future season doesn't lose its luster or I guess the rough edges because it's a second season because this first season was just so good and had plays in such a good connection with Rogue One, even though there's quite a bit of time between this season ending and the Rogue One movie happening. The clear connection between what's being built in the story of this show and the mythology that's being built out that leads to that movie is just absolutely beautiful. Beautiful
Mhm.
storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, I'm eager to hear your hot take on this.
Oh
What's
yeah.
the thing you're walking away from this?
So not quite as existential as both of yours, but it came up in some conversations. People were talking about the character Kino. I think all three of us probably love Andy Serkis because Andy Serkis is just awesome in almost everything that he does. Um, my hot take is that I hope we don't ever hear or see anything about Kino again. But why? But it's right. That's I think I did that on a TikTok story, and I had 3 or 4 people like, "Wait, what? You don't?" And I'm like, "No, no. There's a reason for it. I love his character. It's he plays um such a pivotal character for the story that that is being developed of Andor. And when they get to that point where they're going out of the prison and Kino stops and just goes, he's like, "Why are you stopping?" "I can't swim." I went back and watched it a couple of times because the first time I saw it, I'm like, "Wait, hold on," and I realized before he says it, he's stressed like everybody else, anxious. Then when he says it and pauses for a moment, he almost has a slight grin on his face. And I don't mean a happy grin, but almost like a moment of realization, like, and then at that moment I realized, oh my God, he knew this was coming. He knew this was the outcome to anything they were going to be doing, was to get to this place. And he can't swim. He came in the same way that Andor did. And then when Andor gets knocked off into the water and that's all we see of him, I like that is the end of our relationship with that character, because it creates yet another breaking point for Andor in this long series of, like, you know, check that off the list, check that off the list. At what point is he finally going to go, that's it, I'm now committed to whatever this thing needs to be? When his mom dies, when that happens with Kino, each of these things are pivotal moments in his life. And I think, to be honest, as much as I'd love to see the character again, I think it would do a disservice to the story and Andor's story overall if it'd be like the theories out there of, like, well, his mom's not really dead. We didn't see her under the cover, and that's not really happening. And I'm like, I get it. I get the want to have the character come back, but I think there is something so important to a story like this that solidifies somebody like Andor doing this when those characters are now gone from their life. But to bring his mom back or to bring Kino back would almost diminish that moment for them. And I don't want that to happen. I want that to be this pivot point for the character. So that's why I say it's a hot take, because I don't really want the character not to come back, but I also recognize, Ryan, and you've said this before, and we've had Joanna on in the past. She said the same thing. Sometimes stories just need to go where they need to go. We may not enjoy it, and we may not like what it's doing, but if we can recognize that it's a big part of what they're trying to tell, and it works, then we need to let it go to that conclusion. We've seen that a ton with, like, a lot of the books that have been published in the last couple of years too.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis really stole the show for me, though. The man is such an underrated actor. It's so criminal. I can remember I had family members that were in SAG and Screen Actors Guild, for those of y'all that don't know, and they had just seen Planet of the Apes, and they were so impressed by Caesar, and they wanted to actually nominate Andy Serkis for that role, but he didn't qualify because it was a digital character. And the same is true for Andy Serkis doing Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And if he doesn't get a damn award nomination somewhere from, like, the Emmys, Golden Globes, something like that, then man, he's just been robbed. And so my only reason for wanting to see more of Kino is because I have a feeling he's going to get screwed over again for recognition, because he really just I didn't even know he was in the show when I saw him. I got so excited, and I just want him to be recognized, and I want him to have as many opportunities as possible to be recognized because he deserves it.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
No, he's a great. Yeah, he's just brought. There's. This is a really silly reference, but in the movie Wayne's World, Mike, what is it? Wayne shows up at at a gas station, and he's like, "I need to know where the church is," and then the guy starts telling him, and then Mike Myers looks at the cameras and, like, kind of breaks the fourth wall, and he says, "Can't we get a better actor for this moment?" And I want to say it's like Charlton Heston comes out. I can't recall who it is, but it's somebody that and does the line read, except, of course, is an amazing actor and brings all of this wealth to that, like, oh, yes, Second Methodist Church. I know where it is. It's like this whole, like, thing where it's not as over baked as I just did it, but it's what a great actor can bring to an even small role. And that's exactly what Andy Serkis brings. This is a side character, but there is so much feeling, there's so much emotion. And this is what I mean too by, like, a lot of shows don't know how to deal with, oh man, we got 10 episodes, We got to put some filler episodes in. We got to like just pad this time out. And this show spent time with its characters, like for Andy Serkis. So by the time Andy Serkis is standing, giving that speech, his "Workers of the World Unite" speech, um, uh, that it was earned. And then to have an actor of his caliber in a character role, I mean, yeah, give him all the awards. This to me was like, there is not a role I would have recast or someone that would have been like, you know what, this could have been somebody different. Nope. And that's good direction, that's good writing, that's good on-set chemistry of these people. But Andy Serkis just brought it, just brought that character to life.
Yeah. Well, but we'll see, right? I mean, Star Wars is notorious for showing a character for like 30, 40 seconds, and then suddenly they have a whole comic series. Or Book of Boba Fett. Boba Fett was only in the movies for like a total of like 7 minutes between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and then he becomes this like big legacy character later. We'll see. I love Kevmo so much. I just want to see more of him personally. But I have a feeling if we do see him in season 2, it's going to be in the worst circumstances possible, and it's going to break my heart. So maybe just to not see that, I wouldn't mind if he doesn't make another appearance.
Well, speaking of that, somebody actually from the chat threw out an exact theory about what they think might happen to him.
Oh God!
Damn
it! I did not need that to live in my brain rent free now. Crap.
No.
Oh no! Wait. Is Kino just an anagram for Kinos, which is Snoke? Oh no! I'm corrected. Oh no!
Conspiracy.
Yeah, I too would love to see more Andy Serkis in this role, but in a way that I would like it to break my heart. Like my issue with a season 2 like this is that I'm always big on like, you could have left me wanting for more. Season 1 could end and I'd be cool with that. I feel like, man, I got a great story, almost end to end. Like I'm good, and I can see where some of these things are going to end up. I don't need the specifics, but okay, give me the specifics in season 2. But now I want another level of complexity. I'd like it to go deeper into where it is making me uncomfortable, which would be like compromises that Mon Mothma is doing, the sacrifices that Luthen is making, like more about how maybe he's not, maybe some of the compromises that he's making are too much or too far, or maybe he's lost himself in the mix. Things Andor having to make harder choices than what he's making right now. Now that he's kind of making choices that are kind of almost being delivered to him, but I'd love to see him make harder choices. That's what I want to see out of season 2. I don't want it to be this is how they met K2SO. No, I don't need that. I want this to be more uncomfortable. And we can spend more time in uncomfortable silences in Mon Mothma's space Buick. Like, let's do that, because that is what makes this show great.
Oh, okay. So since you threw the tangent into Mon Mothma, can we talk about how she just totally gaslighted her husband in the space Buick at the end? That was magic. Oh my God, that was magic. She puts it, says, put it on privacy. And then he puts it on privacy, and of course he turns it right back off of privacy. And she just lays into her husband. And I'm like, oh, she knows what she's doing. And her husband's like, who's telling you this? Who is telling? She's like, whatever. I'm like, oh my God. Like, that's how you're getting yourself out of trouble with this money? I'm like, oh. It took me about halfway through her dialogue to realize what, I'm like, oh, that is what she's doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of excellent acting, I've never hated a character so quickly than Perrin.
Not even Pong Krell? Not even Pong Krell?
It was within 5 seconds I hated Perrin.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, it was quick.
He's like this big bucket with a lot of suck inside. He's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the way he had his hair, the way he was composing himself, the way he immediately started talking. He rubbed me the wrong way immediately, and it just got worse and worse with the more I saw of him. So that scene at the end, oof, I was so happy. I shouldn't be happy because technically Mon Mothma is doing something really messed up,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
I was totally here for it, and I was glad for it.
Yeah.
So
Chris, you're a man after my own heart. That hair right away, I was like, I don't like this guy. Right when he walked in with that hair, I was like, oof, this is not a good guy. Mon Mothma, you're better than this.
Yes.
Yeah, his little like snide remarks and the way that he carried himself, like good on that actor, by the way. Like this is like a Joffrey Baratheon type thing where it's like, I don't like you. Good job. Well done, actor.
yeah,
Because yeah, like I hate that guy. And I loved when I figured out what Mon Mothma was doing is she's covering her tracks by burying her husband. But again, it's like it's what I think is great about this show is how it works on a lot of levels. And I'm sorry, I've talked a lot, and I swear I'm going to stop.
Dude, no,
But
keep
this is
going,
how much
man.
I love this show.
Just keep going.
Is there's so many levels to this. Is that they're talking about the slow corruption of the Republic into the Empire, and that they haven't realized that it's slowly that the hand is closing around their neck, and that's the thing that they're talking about, when really it's also the same thing that's happening to all of them, their slow corruption. And that it's like, how much poison can I take and still be good? How many
mhm.
bad things can I do but still be clean on the other side? This is a great concept to like explore. Of it's not all people. It's not just Shane and people wearing white hats and coming in and saving the day, and your heroes are have this great amount of purity. It's that these are complicated characters. These are gray characters having to like work their way through a very hard situation. I like seeing them react like humans, like it's Star Wars's version of The Wire or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mon Mothma, what a tragic character right now. She's a prisoner of her culture, having stuck with the most horrible man in the world in the galaxy. Her daughter has joined a crazy evangelical Chandrellan prayer group and wants to go back to the old ways that Mon Mothma's trying to get out of. And then she's get in with the rebellion where Luthen's putting her up to do all this messed up stuff she doesn't want to do. And then she's of course in Coruscant in the heart of the Empire. She's trapped through that system as well. So man, like she's the least free character of anybody in the entire show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I love it, and I saw Rich's comment, and I would say watch Deep Space Nine, because Deep Space Nine's got all that, and more. Kai Wynn, you want a character you don't like right away? Kai Wynn. So sorry, go on ahead, Jeff.
No, I was gonna say I made the joke about Ponkrell, but it's I'm with now that after you both were talking, I thought about it more, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. My disgust for Parent. So the difference would be like Ponkrell. I think we all universally hate that character, which is why that character existed. So we needed that antagonist to exist, and he is antagonistic, and we can't stand him for these aggressive, terrible things that he does. Perrin is he just sucks. Like he's not aggressive. He's not beating people. He's not sending people to their death. He just sucks. He doesn't do anything. He's sort of that he's that meme of the wife does everything and the husband just goes and takes an ish for 20 minutes while the kids are getting ready in the morning. Like he is that person who's like, "What? You're doing stuff? Whatever." Like this stereotype of like toxic masculinity, like absenteeism, like that's exactly. And it like instantly it's like, oh, you are just, I don't want to have anything, like I am not about anything that you are doing. Like the instant he comes on screen, and he looked like it too. They did a beautiful job. Like you said, the way his hair is put, the way he's dressed, even though Mon Mothma dresses kind of snooty and fancy because she's Chandrila, something about how he is dressing just makes it
It's
like
more
you're just
obnoxious.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's more obnoxious. And I love that for him because it makes us all go, oh my God, not only do you suck, but you're right that it compounds everything that Mon Mothma is dealing with. He is a boat anchor that she is dragging around with her everywhere she goes, and she can't get rid of it. If the Empire didn't exist, she probably could just be like, bounce, I'm out. I can finally get rid of this thing. But especially with the Empire, and now of course with her daughter, yeah, he sucks.
It's interesting we mentioned Ponkrell because my concern going into Andor when I was reading about what they were going to do with the show and how it was going to be presented, I am not a fan of the Umbara arc. I feel very strongly that before Andor, when Star Wars tries to tell a super complex story that is supposed to be have a lot of layers to it, that's where Star Wars just doesn't execute very well. The script's usually too loose. There's too many plot holes. The direction, the script, I can go on. And for me, the Umbara arc is one of my least favorite arcs of Clone Wars. So I was worried Andor was going to be like that. Much to my surprise, I can no longer say Star Wars can't go super complex. Now they have Andor, and I'm just so happy with the show.
Yeah, I you know
Yeah,
what's
I
oh go ahead.
go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I was gonna say that, uh, Chris, a while ago when you and Stephanie were doing a couple of episodes on like going through all the Clone Wars episodes on your podcast, and you were doing the Umbara arc, I'm like, you know what, I need to go back and rewatch that. And I think I got through the first episode of that arc. And I'm like, I'm not watching the rest of this. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, it's just it's hard to watch in general, but not just because of the story, but because the way it's played out is just
Mhm.
it was hard to watch, and it felt like it dragged on. It didn't feel like the story. I mean, the story was clearly progressing, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like we were watching the same thing over and over again, and I never felt that way with Andor. Like, I felt
Yeah.
like even though he was constantly running, especially in the very beginning, the first 3 or 4 episodes, it felt like he was sort of like just leaning forward and running fast to try to, as he ran into the wind, just trying not to fall forward. Like, he just trying to keep himself just upright enough. But it progressed. Like, there was something that was progressing every time that was meaningful. Whereas that, as you mentioned, the Umbara arc, it didn't feel like that to me. It felt like we were watching kind of almost the same thing happen each time. I know it wasn't, but that's how it felt to me. And it made this show. It made me like, oh my god, can next week get here? Like, I need to see this next episode. And I hadn't ever felt that way about Star Wars before. Like, I've always enjoyed watching anything Star Wars. The Clone Wars, it doesn't matter what it is. But this was different. This was no, I need this next episode. I am now emotionally invested in what, but far more so than I've ever been before in a show. Just in general,
Yeah,
not even just Star Wars.
no, I was really invested in this, and I was already like kind of serialized this summer. Like, I mean, I was all about Strange New Worlds. I was all about. I even watched the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I watched all of that stuff. Like, I got into it, and this show was different in that I looked forward to it. I was sad when I knew it was coming to an end. Like, I was like, oh man, I'm really bummed out about this, that this show's about to end, and now we're gonna have to wait forever, however long, until we see some more again. And then when it ended, I kind of felt like I could let this stand and let this end right here. Just that's my thing about even the Last Jedi. It's like you could just end the whole series. You just end it right there. The thing that I to Chris, to build on your idea, and Jeff, to the thing that you're talking about too, is I think sometimes a show loses its way when it goes, well, we're gonna go dark. We're gonna tell some complex stories, and that becomes like a setting, or it becomes like a production design, but it doesn't become like the story tenets. And it's like real complexity is honestly sometimes sitting with characters well beyond what regular TV wants you to do. Like, I went back and watched a bunch of the episodes ahead of us sitting down tonight, and all of those episodes with Cyril are, I mean, those, there are some uncomfortable, of course you could say they're cringy moments, but there are some uncomfortable moments that you are sitting there, and this show takes its time setting that character up, so that way when you get to the ending, like again, like all of this is earned. There's not just like what happens with Deirdre is earned. What happens with Cyril is earned. When Cassian when Cassian says, "Kill me or take me in," that line is earned. You're not just like, wait, what? Like it's like a thing that I've always had a problem with. And this was the first time it happened to me was when I was in the theater watching Star Wars Episode 2, and Padme says, "I'm so in love with you," and I was like, "You are." Like,
have
when
you
did
met
that
him? Like, have you met
Why?
this?
Why?
Was
He
it
admitted to
was it when he
slaughtering
killed
women
the
and
women?
children, and you're like,
Yeah, was it
he's
when
so
he killed the
precious to
women
me.
and children? Is that when you were like, I can fix him? Like what? That did not ring true because it wasn't earned. Um, when Rey is standing at the end of Last Jedi, and there's all the rocks that are around her, and she's got to get everybody out, and she says, "Moving rocks." That's an earned line because it's been planted. It's been getting there. What is the Force? It's a thing that the Jedi's use to move rocks. This
Mhm.
is an earned thing that gets us there, and that has a payoff. But this was even more of a payoff because it wasn't a payoff to a joke. It wasn't the rule of three or something like that. It was. It was like you got who Cyril was when they get through and you see that it's the orange hat that he was wearing, and even their uncomfortableness and how weird that moment was for them, that was great. That's what I mean. Like I like that they didn't just go, we're gonna go super complex, we're gonna do some super like uncomfortable storyline. It's like, and we don't really know where that's going. No, this is, they knew where they were going, and then they brought it through. I almost feel like they had the end of the story figured out, and they worked backwards from there. That's
Yeah.
how all of this was.
They didn't even, I mean, even the post-credit scene, usually a lot of shows, post-credit stuff, like it's just a thing designed to get you excited for another property or another movie or whatever. This had a particular story component because after I'm feeling all shiny and hopeful and happy for the first time ever watching the show, there's this nice big punch in my face letting me know, oh yeah, Andor also helped build the thing that's going to murder him someday, so have fun with that.
Yeah,
And it's like, man, really?
yeah.
Gosh.
I really really loved exactly what you're describing, Chris. I really loved. There was no. There was a couple like videos online where somebody like overdubbed the Emperor cackling or something over that end credit scene, and when I caught that, I was like, ah, crap, I got spoiled. And then when I actually saw the end credit scene and that doesn't happen, you just see the actions happening, and that's it. I'm like, oh, this is so much better because, like you said, it also reinforced for me that all the stuff that we just saw happen, everything that just spurred off, you're not stopping that. Like this, all of this that just occurred was a blip on the radar towards what's already happening. Like so, it it created this for me this dichotomy between it's going to take a lot more of what they just did to get anywhere near impacting that. And I think
It's what is the line? It's the little things that will eventually adds up to the one thing that's going to break the dam,
yeah,
which is going to be Rogue One.
yes. But it takes, like you said, it takes all of these. You can't just go do that. In general and realistically, but also in storytelling, it doesn't work to just go do that because, like you said, Ryan, then it's not earned, and that doesn't make it
Yeah.
feel as impactful as if you see all this stuff building up over time and you connect with these characters, because then the outcome is just the natural conclusion of everything you just watched. Like, yes, we know Rogue One happened. I think that's what's actually beautiful about the show is it doesn't matter that we know what happens in Rogue One. It doesn't matter what we just watched. Yeah, great. I know that that's the inevitable conclusion of all this. What's important is how they got to that place, because we know that it's a huge Death Star that can destroy entire worlds. How could people have an impact on that? Well, let's show you. This is the way that people have an impact, and it relates so much to like political situations we're all dealing with in the world today, which is how do you deal with all these big things that you can't affect? This is how you deal with it. It doesn't happen tomorrow, but you
Yeah.
deal with it by doing all these things over a period of time, and it will have an impact. But you got to put in the work to get there, and
Yeah,
it's not fun.
no, I by the way, like I love just two quick things on that because it's reminded me of a thing that I really like about this show is that it also makes to me Rogue One better. Like
Yeah.
and I know that
Absolutely.
like it's very rare when you get something that's like this where an alternate, and the only one that I could think of where it's like you had this original idea and then someone like made it a lot better is like The Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings, where it's like, oh yeah, we got this little thing over here and then we made it really really big and like grander and added even more depth to the thing that happened before it. I think that Andor really makes Rogue One stronger. You get a better feel for this character, and it does a lot. And by the way, like Mon Mothma, I think the actress is Genevieve O'Reilly. I could have that name incorrect, or it's
Um,
something. It's something like that. And I could be wrong, but talk about like a payoff
You're right, by the way.
hire from episode 3, in a deleted scenes of Mon Mothma that then pay off in Rogue One 10 years later, that pay off in Andor 7 years after that. Like, talk about an actor that just brings a lot to a role and was just kind of absentmindedly cast like 15 years ago. That to me is like just stunt luck casting. I'm sorry, Diego Luna. I was about to say Gail Garcia Bernal, but that's Werewolf by Night, which is another great show that I loved. But Diego Luna is great. Andy Serkis great. All these actors are great. Stellan Skarsgård great. But yeah, this this casting for Mon Mothma, it makes Rogue One better. This show, this show.
It really does. Yeah, I don't think I could add anything else to that. So we've got like 5 minutes left. I guess I would ask both of you, what is your main takeaway from this show? Like, what's the one thing that, like, other than the simple thing of like it's your favorite series, which we got from you, Ryan. What's the one thing that this show does to Star Wars that nothing else has ever done to Star Wars before?
it brings in a different level. There's no Sith Lord, there's no Jedi, there's no center of the universe. We're dealing with the real people who are affected by what happens in the galaxy and during one of the most oppressive times in the galaxy. So uh, I think that ultimately we're gonna be able to see different types of Star Wars stories that will have different perspectives. We don't need space wizards anymore to tell a Star Wars story.
Mm-hmm. Or we don't have
I
to
like
rely.
them. I like space wizards.
Oh,
but
totally. I'm dressed like one right now. But like we don't have I like that we don't have to rely on them. They don't have to be the linchpin of Star Wars. It can be about people. I mean, the success of the Thrawn books, both recent Thrawn trilogies that have come out, I think is a testament to that because it doesn't rely on Jedi or Sith to tell amazing stories in Star Wars.
Yeah.
about mixing together different genres, but I think finally Star Wars leaning so hard into science fiction for I think the first time really is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the
Right.
world building was great.
Right.
I couldn't agree more with the note on the Blade Runner at the start because I remember thinking, oh man, this feels like Blade Runner. I like that this this is coming from someone that likes to watch shows with my kids. I did like that this was more grown up. This is not a show that I could watch with my kids. That's fine. And I guess the thing that I always liked is that Star Wars and Star Trek and a lot of things handle its politics very subtly, very lightly. And what I liked about this and what I hope it is that they continue to do a little bit more in this arena. I like when shows are political. A line that sticks with me in this show is, and if we work hard enough, we'll get food with flavor. That these types of things, I don't think it was accidental to say, oh, he's only 40 shifts away when we all work 40-hour work weeks in America. This show had a lot to say And that's the thing that's my big takeaway is I like this, and I hope that they keep, just like they're leaning into the hard sci-fi, like lean into this, keep that politics going, because especially when you have something you want to say. Otherwise it is just like surface level Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, look, the Birdmen are going to go and attack, like no, like that's great, and I like that kind of fare sometimes too. I enjoy Cheetos, but I also like a steak, and so give me something meaty. Keep this going.
Absolutely love that about the show. I would love. I think this Rogue One started it, and this show is reinforcing the humanity of Star Wars. And I want to see. I mean, I mentioned the Thrawn books that are behind me on the shelf. I want to see more of that in Star Wars. I'm with you, Chris. Like I will cosplay a Jedi all day long. I got lightsabers, got my High Republic stuff. Like I love these stories. I think what's going to really bring in is bringing in a new generation, not just age generation, but like a new wave of Star Wars fans, and will continue to do so, are stories that real people can connect with the characters, and not just in a fantasy sort of way, because we all love that, and people who are predisposed to enjoying the fantastical, this type of stuff from Star Wars, cool, we're going to continue to like it, and people like that who are disposed to that are going to continue to do that. But the people who don't tend to gravitate to this type of story and prefer other types of fiction or nonfiction, to me, Andor is going to attract people like that too, to realize that, oh, I can have a fantasy, so to speak, or a fiction that can still fulfill all the things I'm enjoying. It doesn't matter if it's under the moniker of Star Wars. It still hits all the things I enjoyed to learn about, and can see themselves in, because that's why they enjoy it so much. And I don't necessarily want them to over rotate and just do that type of stuff, but I think it would be really interesting to see how that brings in a new wave and new generations of people into the Star Wars fandom, based off of being able to see the humanity in these characters, not just the fantastical pieces of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been fun. This has been I know we probably could talk about Andor for a while, because we didn't even get a chance to talk about Luthen's ship, because
I want that ship.
Oh my
we
god!
Also didn't get a chance to we didn't get a chance to talk about, and guess who was Sauron in Andor?
Ooh.
Yes, exactly. Like obviously it's Perrin.
It's obviously Perrin.
It's Perrin. No, not Perrin's. Not no.
The long hair. I mean, he's got something in the eyes.
See, I was almost thinking Perrin would be more like the mouth of Sauron, who just is just a sycophant. He's just a sycophant, and he doesn't have any other purpose other than just to be a sycophant, because he is just a dick. He is. He's just a dick.
We didn't talk about how obviously the assistant inside of the secondhand store is a young Leia. I love all of the little tidbits that I read online of theories of who's
I know
what.
that's so funny.
I don't know about that.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, that's not the right age. It's not the right age. But I will say, if you needed a young Leia, I think that was a miscast. Then you should have used her, because I thought she had a good young Leia look. But yeah, Jeff, I gotta agree with you. It's good to see you again, Chris. It's great to be. We've taken a break from the show for I think about 2 weeks, and it's so nice to be on talking about this show. I know that I keep calling him out, but it's great seeing Rich. And thanks everybody for letting me talk about Star Trek as much as I do.
And Rich appreciates it too. So see, but DS9.
DS9 is the best. What are you talking about?
It's a secret all-star. If you want a show that is a 60-minute version of Andor, watch In the Pale Moonlight. It's an episode from season 6 of Deep Space Nine, and it is one of their all-time bests.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, since we're going to wrap up our Star Wars show on Star Trek, like we always do. Totally kidding. Thank you all for being here. Everybody who's caught us live, thanks for being here. Subscribe if you get a chance to. If you're catching us on the replay, we appreciate that too. Have a wonderful night, and we will catch you back here really, really soon.
Hey, bye everybody.